reasons why Uganda, Kampala, might not be the place for you to visit or to come and live. These are the questions you should be asking yourself or yourselves before you decide to take a trip down to Uganda. Let's get into it. It's Tyme London. Now, before you visit Uganda, these are the things that you must know about Uganda, right? You have to ask yourself, consider this, right? What kind of weather do you like as a person, right? As it's starting to rain, you have to ask yourself, are you the person who likes really hot weather all year round? Because that's the case down here in Uganda. Most of the time, the majority of the time here, the weather is always really hot. And of course, to go through rainy seasons from November towards the end of the year, first week of November and through early December. So maybe you get 2 months of, rain here in Uganda. So ask yourself first before you decide to take a trip to Uganda, how do you like your weather? How do you prefer your weather? I know a lot of you prefer hot weather and some prefer cold weather. So that's a question you have to ask yourself as I'm taking a walk to the shop. Actually, it's that way. So weather first. Ask yourself what kind of weather do you like before deciding to come to Uganda. As you can see, beautiful weather right now, but I can feel some raindrops, so maybe the rain might be coming. So the weather down here in Uganda is very unpredictable, because it could be sunny like you see right now, and then a few minutes later it'll be raining. So ask yourself that first, what kind of weather you like, before you make that decision to visit Uganda or Kampala. Secondly, transport. Are you the kind of person who doesn't really mind about transport? Now, the thing about Uganda is it's limited when it comes to transport, and saying that, it's not a bad thing. I mean, you can't compare it to Europe. We all know first world countries are developed when it comes to transport. They've got different means of transport, but here in Uganda, transport mainly you can only use roads, cars, bikes, borders, and taxis on the road again. Now, some places here in Uganda, I believe they do have some trains, but they're very limited. So the main source of transport here in Uganda is mainly by roads, cars. Whereas obviously, I'm not trying to compare, I'm just trying to give you guys some examples. If you're from London like I am, we've got different options like London Underground, and obviously overground trains that take you outside of London and stuff. So here, if you're not really fussed about transport, then yeah, sure, come visit Uganda. All right, so that's transport. And also, talking about transport, if you're not really fussed about congested places, here when you go, especially when you go deep down in Kampala, the town can get really congested, especially when it comes to during the times of the day that are rush hours, like early mornings when people are going to work, and in the evenings when people finish working. But in most cases in Kampala, in town, most places are congested. So if you're not a person who likes congested places, maybe Kampala, Uganda might not be the place for you. All right, next point. Right, next point to consider when you're coming to Uganda: healthcare. Now, healthcare here in Uganda is not free like it is in some countries in Europe. I mean, again, I'm not trying to compare. It is what it is. In Uganda, healthcare, or if you're sick and you need to go to hospital, everything, there's nothing for free here. Mainly, if you need to go, if you need medication, or if you need to go to the hospital, you have to pay for your treatment, if you need treatment, or if you need medication. So, healthcare here in Uganda, you have to pay your own way around. If you're sick and you go to a hospital, you have to pay for it. So it's not free. So if you're from countries where you're used to that kind of thing, where you have to pay for medication and stuff, then it's cool. You can come to Uganda. Uganda will be cool with you. All right, next point. Next point to consider. Next point to take in consideration, if Uganda is really the place for you, is education. Now, again, just like healthcare, education here in Uganda, you have to pay for it. From all the way from nursery, it's getting a bit windy, so hopefully you guys can hear me clearly. Let me wait for this border guy to go through. So, just like healthcare, here in Uganda, as more borders go past, there. So here in Uganda, education is not free, as it is in different countries. Again, I'm not trying to compare before you guys come in my comments. Yeah, but Tyme, why are you comparing to Uganda to, you know, first world countries? Which I get sometimes. I'm not comparing, just letting you guys know. So education here in Uganda, you have to pay for, from all the way from nursery up to university. When you graduate, you have to pay your way through. So if you're willing to, if you wanna, you know, if you're thinking of, you know, migrating to Uganda with your family, if you've got kids and stuff like that that still need to go to school and learn and stuff, you might consider that. You're gonna have to pay for education for your kids, or even you if you're still studying, you might consider that you're gonna still have to pay from all the way from nursery all the way until you get to university, until you graduate. All right, another point to consider. So let's move on to our next one. As you can see, this is where I'm coming from, guys, and this is where I'm going. Right now, another point to consider for you guys, the banking system here in Uganda. I mean, banks are limited. There's not too many options for international banking. Now, some banks in Uganda, if you're from abroad and you wanna do some transfers, some banks will allow you to do that, but most banks here in Uganda do not allow you to do that. I'll give you an example. A bank that's called Absa, who used to be called Barclays, is here in Uganda. So if you come from abroad and that's your bank to use, when you come to Uganda, you'll be able to access it even here in Uganda, because they've got branches here in Uganda. But another thing about banking systems here in Uganda, they'll charge you for withdrawing money. When you go to cash machines to withdraw money, they'll charge you. So if that's not the kind of thing that you like, Uganda might not be for you. You might want to stay somewhere else where the banking system is a bit lenient to its customers. All right, next point. If you're scared of, you know, small bugs, little insects and stuff like that, Uganda might not be the place for you. Now, Uganda is renowned for having mosquitoes, hence why malaria is very popular here in Uganda. So if you're the kind of person that's scared about catching malaria and stuff like that, maybe Uganda might not be the place for you. But of course, there are different ways around that. If you visit Uganda, you can take anti-malarias, like I've mentioned in loads of my other videos. You can take anti-malaria tablets as you just arrived, and they'll help you to avoid catching malaria if you get bitten by mosquitoes. But if you're gonna stay here long term, you might want to invest into a net where you can put it over your bed and stuff like that, sleeping net, and it might keep you safe. But at the end of the day, once in a while you will get bitten by mosquitoes. You can't stay away from them. They're everywhere here in Uganda. So if you're scared of that kind of thing, scared of catching malaria, scared of getting bitten by certain bugs and ants, maybe Uganda is not the place for you as well. Another point, we're on the main road, as you can see. We're moving. I'm going to the supermarket over here to do a little bit of shopping. So that's where we're going, over there. Cool. So another point to consider before you visit Uganda or you come to Uganda. Now, if you're not a fan of animals, by the way, Uganda might not be the place for you. Now, animals are everywhere here in Uganda, everywhere you go. I mean, you might be walking down the road, or you might see some animals depending on what kind of part you're walking in. Well, I haven't seen any at the moment, but I'm sure if I keep walking, I will see some. So, if animals are not your thing, if you're not a fan of animals, Uganda might not be the place for you. And the reason why I'm saying that is, like I mentioned in some of my old videos, here in Uganda, as this guy drives off the road, All right. So here in Uganda, like a lot of people here, the majority of people here in Uganda, they use dogs for security. So most people here, they live in their own compounds. People here, when they build their houses, they put fences around the houses and they lock themselves inside. Now when they're going to bed, especially at night, they'll have guard dogs to keep them safe. They don't have, you know, people, you know, to do security, unless that's your thing and you want to use people. But here, mainly in Uganda, people use dogs for security at night when they're going to bed. Guard dogs. So they train them, they get them when they're trained, and they use them for security. So if animals are not your thing, Uganda and Kampala might not be the place for you, my friend. All right. Another reason why you might not want to visit Uganda. Let's move on. That's where I'm coming from, and I'm walking down this side. That's where we're going. So, another reason why Uganda might not be the place for you. Now, I've mentioned this over and over again in loads of my other videos, right? The unpredictability of electricity here in Uganda. Now, if you're the kind of person who relies on, you know, working online, who relies on computers, on electricity, making sure that you always have power, or even relying on internet like I do to do my work when I'm uploading videos, Uganda is very unpredictable. And depending on where you live, some places are more reliable than others, but in general, all around, the power will go off at some point. So sometimes they'll have, like, you know, nationwide blackouts where power goes off everywhere. But it's very, very annoying when you stay here in Uganda. So if you work and your job depends on having power or being on computers all the time, maybe Uganda might not be the place for you. So guys, there we are. I wanted to make this short video because people are always asking me different questions about Uganda. What's this? How is this in Uganda? I think oh yeah, let's go back. So people are always asking me different questions about Uganda. How is this about Uganda? What to do in this situation? So yeah, I wanted to mention those kind of things for you guys to consider in case you wanna, you know, migrate to Uganda or even take a trip to visit to Uganda. You might take a few things in consideration to think before you make that decision. Those are the kind of things I wanted to tell you guys to consider before visiting Uganda or coming here. But you guys already know that I love this place, so maybe you might want to disregard everything I just said. It's up to you, and come down, you know, to Uganda and enjoy yourself like I do. Tyme London. I'll catch you on the next one. Oh yeah.